So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, David Noakes.
Thank you, Ian. I'd like to thank Ian for inviting me to speak. I think he's a wonderful man. I think he's a saint. Even though this is all his fault. So, hands up if you know that Lynda Thyer is in jail. Yeah, that seems to be just about all, at least 90%. So Lynda Thyer would like to thank you all and Ian R. Crane for your support and letters. So Lynda is an innocent scientist in Fleury-Mérogis prison. Her Westminster Magistrates extradition court case was unbridled corruption, as you will see, as was Julian Assange's. So, for those of you who don't know, GCMAF is a safe, natural human protein that cures cancer and 50 other diseases. It has negligible side effects, is 1% the cost of chemo. We used to give 25% of it away for nothing because some people can't even afford 1%. And we treated 11,500 people. It's got 300 scientists behind it, 150 scientific research papers, 350 doctors used it, and it's got 400,000 followers on YouTube. The MHRA is determined to stop its release to the public. As a result, 2 million British people have died unnecessarily in the 25 years since GCMAF was ready for release. For producing GCMAF, my 27 staff and I have had 33 persecutions, 15 prosecutions, 4 prison sentences. We've had more court cases yet to come, and Lynda Thyer and I have 12-year, 4 months jail sentences awaiting us in France, and they've already told me that they want to put me in Fleury-Mérogis prison as well. The MHRA wanted to illegally double our sentences, so they contacted their opposite numbers, OCLAESP, in France, and got Judge Jean-Luc to prosecute us. It's illegal under the Lisbon Treaty and the European Convention on Fundamental Rights to prosecute twice in Europe, but judges don't give a damn about the law, and they will prosecute twice. So, we're going to cover the false witness, fraud and perjury of Paris's Judge Jean-Luc. So, I will ask you in a minute to decide whether this man is nice, corrupt, or satanic. And it'll be a hand vote. That is Jean-Luc Godard. So, in the European Arrest Warrant of the 9th of March 2017, Judge Jean-Luc Godard bore false witness. He lied under oath and created 9 false charges for his imagination for GCMAF. Lyn and I never did anything in France, and that is why he has no evidence. That should be a 5-year sentence prison sentence for Judge Godard. But in the best EU tradition, he's above the law. So we had corpus juris come to England in 1992, and since then, 2,000 people at least have died in police cells, and no policeman has been prosecuted, because under the European Union, they are above the law. So Judge Godard copied my 9 charges, an exact photocopy to Lyn. And of course, she is a biomedical scientist. I was the CEO of Immunobiotech, a full-time director. And she's got the charges as though she's the CEO and full-time director. But she was a contractor, not even a staff member, and was treating patients under Professor Marco Ruggiero MD, one of my 4 scientists. She treated 300 people successfully. Our roles were nothing like each other. Godard's copy was blatantly, obviously, a fraudulent statement under oath. So, Judge Jean-Luc Godard also committed perjury. He stated Lynda had 11 million in her bank account. And that, of course, was more than enough to get the arrest warrant granted. It served its purpose. And then, 2 years later in England, Judge Sir Michael Supperstone said, actually, the correct figure was 11,000. But he didn't throw the case out, which he should have done. So that's perjury as well. And we're sure the perjury was deliberate. You have to create extra digits for 11 million. This case has already gone on for 5 years. Judge Godard won't let it be tried for obvious reasons. He has no evidence. We never did anything with GCMAF in France. Then Judge Jean-Luc Godard dishonestly linked 2 little GCMAF companies, Durzam BV of Holland and Cyto Innovations of France, who had never heard each other, and said there was a conspiracy between them, and then used the terrorism parts of the MLAT, the Mutual Legal Aid Treaty. So he used that international law to get 13 police, 4 with machine guns, to arrest Lynda Thyer and myself. But we were only in France on weekends. He got David Housel arrested, who was the only man there, who was Durzam's only employee, and put him in prison for 5 months without charges. This is abuse of the terrorism laws. They were not intended to be used to protect the profits of the big pharmaceutical corporations. All told, Godard has broken the law 15 times in our case. It should be intensely embarrassing for the French to have a senior judge lying under oath in international arrest warrants. So the European Arrest Warrant should have been thrown out because of false witness, fraud, and perjury. And Lynda should have been freed. But frankly, I think her lawyer was working for the other side. But what actually happened was the English judges, Rebecca Crane, Sir Michael Supperstone, and Michael Cox, ignored the false witness, the lying under oath, and the perjury, and gleefully extradited Lynda Thyer, knowing she's innocent. She is completely innocent of all charges in both England and France. I have been prosecuted in England. I'm still under sentence, which is why I've not been extradited yet. But the courts and judges don't obey the law. Instead, they take directions from senior Freemasonry, and the law in the case is totally irrelevant. So I am being extradited, tried on the same charges this Thursday at 10 o'clock at Westminster Magistrates Court, 181 Marylebone Road. And that court, as we already know, is utterly corrupt. Judge Godard illegally denies Lynda her human rights. So she's in Fleury-Mérogis prison, 20 nautical miles south of Paris, controlled by Judge Godard. He's denied her incoming correspondence after the first week when she got 100 letters of support, and banned her from writing letters or using the prison telephones. Her French lessons have been cancelled, and instead of being in the cell 16 hours, which he told the Westminster Court, she's in the cell 23 hours a day. So Godard completely cut off her human rights, and she's been on hunger strike for 3 months. She was given a prison lawyer, Benjamin Bobot, who she said has done nothing. We know why. He gets work from Servier, which is France's second largest pharmaceutical corporation. Sophie Menegon, a lawyer, is trying to contact her, but cannot make contact because all communication has been stopped. The British consulate is fairly clueless, quite incapable of chasing up a lawyer and ensuring a British subject gets bail. Their main concern is hiding behind the Data Protection Act, which gets them out of saying anything. So Lyn has no hope and attempted suicide 3 times. The last time she was in hospital for 10 days and got out last week and was then put back in prison. But someone has said something to Judge Godard, and she is now receiving letters again. So that's her address. It's on the handout. I forgot to tell you. These handouts are, if you haven't already got one, you can pick them up on the front desk outside on the left. And that includes Lynda's address, my telephone number, and my email address. And by the way, if anyone can put me up tonight, I want to hand out more of these leaflets inside Parliament to MPs tomorrow. So we've taken a bit of action against Godard. I've reported him to the EU Commission Legal Complaints Department, the French Law Society, the Ordre des Avocats, for breaking the law 15 times, and the embarrassment for France to have a liar under oath making out EU arrest warrants. And I've reported him to the vice prosecutor in his own extradition department, all in French, thanks to Google Translate, and 4 other justice.fr email addresses. I've also given a copy to Marine Le Pen of the Front National, saying how urgent it is they release Lyn. Needless to say, I've not had any replies. So hands up all those who went to Parliament Square for the free Lynda Thyer demonstration. That's about a quarter of you, I would say. Thank you very much. Now I've got a picture here of the demonstration. I very much doubt I'll be able to pull it up. This is a Windows machine. Yeah. Right. So there are about 200 of us. We took lots and lots of photos. The UK column, Brian Gerrish and Mike Robinson, kindly broadcast the material that Ian R. Crane shot in the square, in Parliament Square. And we went to the Conservative and Labour Party head offices. The Labour Party had a truly abominable woman who flatly refused to take our submission, and their reception refused as well. The reception for the Brexit Party said they were no longer at their offices, so we called them on a mobile phone. Oh yes, they were there. The receptionist just flatly refused to take the submissions. And they were research papers of GC Math. It was about 1/4 of an inch thick. No one would take them. Keith Dennis and I gave out 800 of these leaflets to the Conservative Party conference. We gave one personally to Jacob Rees-Mogg, Mark Francois of the ERG, David Dimbleby, Arlene Foster of the DUP, and Martin Howe QC of Lawyers for Britain. I also asked him a question in front of 400 people: how can we get the innocent Lynda Thyer back from French prison? His answer was basically, you can't. The extradition law is totally illegal under EU law, under British law, because under Magna Carta, which can never be overwritten, it cannot be repealed, it's with us forever, thank God, you cannot arrest without evidence. And the EU arrest warrant says no evidence is required. And the stupid MPs passed an act that completely breaks British law. So it is the European arrest warrant that has to go, because Magna Carta takes primacy, obviously. So none of those illustrious people were even slightly interested in Lynda Thyer's case. I gave 400 out to 2 Brexit Party conferences. I personally gave Anne Widdecombe and Nigel Farage copies at each event. Farage, who I used to think a lot of, is far too interested in his own career to give a damn about an innocent English woman in a French prison. So hands up if you've written a letter to the authorities about Lyn. That's about 1/6 of you. Thank you very much. We've been writing to senior ministers from Boris Johnson downwards. We've got absolutely nowhere. They don't even bother to reply. No one up above gives a damn about an English woman in a French prison. Right, so big pharmaceutical corporations want to make 100 times as much on a drug as it costs them to make. They want 100 times super profits. So to do that, they have to get a patent. And you can't get a patent on a natural, safe natural treatment like GC Math. You can't get one. So that means they have to make dangerous chemical drugs. Between 2004 and 2007, pharmaceutical corporations paid an astonishing $7 billion in fines. But with a $1.3 trillion turnover, that's a drop in the bucket for them. In his book, Deadly Medicines and Organized Crime, Peter Gotesh states pharmaceutical drugs are the 3rd biggest killer after heart disease and cancer. Avandia from GlaxoSmithKline opioids and Vioxx killed 450,000 in America alone. In the USA, Avandia and Vioxx from Merck got a $3 billion and a $1 billion fine for fraud because they knew their chemical drugs killed and concealed it. In the UK, under the MHRA, a dozen pharmaceutical companies that have made drugs that kill get off scot-free, including GlaxoSmithKline, because GlaxoSmithKline has directors on the board of the MHRA, and it was Gerald Heddle of GlaxoSmithKline who raided us and prosecuted us, persecuted us, and put us in prison. So GlaxoSmithKline put the GCMAF staff in prison. GCMAF has never killed anyone, but you wouldn't expect it to. It's a safe, natural human protein inside every living person who is healthy on Earth. So in the UK, they get off scot-free, and these are murder or manslaughter charges. And look at the crushing. They get nothing, and look at the crushing persecutions that we get. The FDA used to admit on their website, drugs they license kill 102,000 a year. The MHRA have never told us how many people drugs they license kill. But we think chemotherapy seems to kill 30,000 a year. We think drugs the MHRA license kill 80,000 British people every year. And we calculate that by denying people GCMAF, they kill another 120,000, so the MHRA are killing 200,000 people a year. Can I ask how many of you have been to the website MHRAcorrupt.st and read this? That's about a quarter of you. It's brilliant information. I mean, it'll blow your mind away. I mean, especially get down to Parliament guilty, the last heading. We want to start a class action lawsuit, which is an N208 form in England, to sue Parliament, the MHRA and Big Pharma for £2 trillion. 1 million for every family that has lost a member unnecessarily to cancer. They have concealed GCMAF for 25 years, and 2 million people have died needlessly to satisfy the greed of the pharmaceuticals. So we need help from you. If you know a family that's lost someone to cancer over the last 25 years, or someone who has cancer now, please email their name, address, the cancer they had, treatment they had, age at death, and their next of kin's telephone number and address to dn@help.vg. We need about 100 people to get the case off the ground. So this is, if you like, the end of Gary's talk and the end of Brian Gerish's talk, how to handle corrupt courts. All our courts are illegally admiralty courts. Astonishingly, they can only deal with ships, cargoes, and dead people. I have not been prosecuted 3 times because I keep saying I have a common law birth certificate, I show them a copy of it, and I am a living man. They now have 4 hearing dates for my confiscation hearing. They keep putting it back, and I should be saying exactly the same thing this Thursday. If you go to MHRAcorrupt.st and click Common Law, you will see in half a page the corruption of our courts and how to avoid it. So, hands up if you've been to youtube.com and done a search on Terry Davis Newman. That's about a sixth of you. She has the whole GCMAF history and the corruption of the MHRA in a 6-minute video. Hands up if you've looked at gcmaf.se and read GCMAF, the cancer cure we've all been waiting for. That's about a fifth of you. So that takes you through 5 research papers from some of the world's top cancer research cases, including the Atomic Bomb Institute of Nagasaki University, Japan. And they have a picture on page 4 showing GCMAF shrunk 90% in liver cancer tumors in 3 weeks. Okay, well, I'll just see if we can get the picture of this bloke back up again. I ask you, this is Judge Jean-Luc Godard. Firstly, who thinks he's nice? Not one hand's gone up. Who thinks he's corrupt? Yeah, well, that's 80% of you at least. And who thinks he's satanic? That's 80% again. Right, well, that's Judge Jean-Luc Godard. So thank you, everyone. Please write to Lynda Thyer because she can get email again now. Sorry, letters again now. If you know anyone influential, please bring her case to their attention. So I'm in court this Thursday, 31st of October, at Westminster Magistrates Court, and the nearest tubes are Edgware Road, Marylebone, and Baker Street. There's my telephone number, and don't forget my email address and telephone number are on that sheet, which is in reception on the left if you haven't got one. All these court cases are 10 o'clock in the morning. So thank you, all of you, very much for listening. And we send our love to Lynda Thyer. If Lynda Thyer ever gets out of jail, it will be you who have done it. Thank you very much.
Now, David, before you run away, we know that basically you've been living on fumes, and the courts are still trying to fleece you of everything they still think you have. And the people were very generous at AV10.
Yes.
And on your behalf, I'm going to just put this bucket out on the table. There's another one out there already. But if you would like to help support David and Lyn, David and Lyn will literally, or David will take these buckets. It was David and Lyn at AV10. Unfortunately, it's just David now. David will take these buckets unopened back with him to do whatever he deems appropriate with. And, we are looking at ways, and David's looking at ways in which we can set up crowdfunding. But, what we obviously just have to be careful of is that the courts then don't say, well, you got a crowdfunder, and we're going to take that too, because, unfortunately, what we've witnessed in the courts is eye-opening. I mean, if anybody hasn't attended a court case ever, and I must confess, I spent more time in the courtroom in the last 6 years than I ever imagined I would. But the magnitude of the corruption is just truly staggering. I was actually sitting in the courtroom once, and this guy sitting next to me in the public gallery, in response to a comment the judge made, and he involuntarily just shouted out, "Bollocks!" Do you know how difficult it is when that happens, just to keep your eyes bearing straight forward like this? Your natural reaction is to go... But I wasn't about to give the guy away, because what the judge was spouting was utter bollocks. And unfortunately, of course, you have no recourse in the court. It's there their show. So I will certainly be with you on Thursday. How many people can make it on Thursday to Marylebone Road? You know, and if you haven't read the reports, particularly Craig Murray's report on the hearing, the extradition hearing of Julian Assange, then I encourage you to do so. Because reading Craig Murray's report and John Pilger's report, it was clearly evident that Julian Assange had been drugged up. He was under the chemical kosh. And the judge, who fortunately for her name escapes me right now, but she treated him with such disdain, and said, because he said he was confused and hadn't been able to follow the proceedings, and she just simply dismissed it and said, well, your legal team can explain it to you afterwards. Well, you know, David, in my opinion, is doing absolutely the right thing here. He's dispensed with the services of a legal team who, of course, their loyalty is to the bar and not to their client. And he's presenting as a living man in court. And although they're not acknowledging it, of course, they have no choice except to keep kicking the can down the road. And that's okay, but meanwhile, of course, we need to then apply our own collective creativity to find a way to bring not only this to a conclusion, but of course to get Lyn Thyer back into the UK. So David, I know that you're in the thoughts and hearts of literally millions of people around the world, and we're right behind you. We can only imagine what you're going through. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Cheers. Thank you.